Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon Torrance, and welcome to Magic is Real, a podcast focused on proof of afterlife, whose mission is to bring hope and inspiration to others and to spread the word that death is only an illusion. If these interviews resonate with you and you want to hear more like them, you can support the podcast by liking, subscribing, and sharing with like-minded friends. Thank you so much, and thank you for being a part of the Magic is Real family. I wish you peace, light, and love always. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and listening to Magic is Real. I'm Shannon Torrance, and I'm here today with my new friend, Tina Angeli, who is a psychic medium. She's had several near-death experiences. She's an angel communicator. She's a channeler. She's written a book called We Are Angels and so much more. We're going to talk about so many things. But first, I just wanted to welcome you, Tina, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Shannon, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Now, please tell me if I know that there's so many things that you do, but feel free to share anything I left out in terms of what your life looks like now, what sort of work you do, and that sort of thing.
Well, I changed my format to do when I do sessions with clients or groups, I do it with either Zoom or Google Meet, only online. Although when it's warm outside in Connecticut, I have done outside by either the waterfall or the labyrinth. I've done sessions with people in person.
Yes. Now, Tina has a labyrinth on her property in Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut, and it's one of the most beautiful states, I think, in the United States. And she commissioned, I think is what the word would be, a labyrinth on her property. So that, and it's, I've seen pictures of it on her website, and it's beautiful. So now I want to talk about how, obviously we're going to talk a lot about, you're going to talk about your near-death experiences and your angel communication and your psychic mediumship. But of course, I want to know, and I hope everyone else does too, how this all began for you, because I know with you, you started having communications with guides and angels very young. I'd love for you to take us back to your childhood and tell me what your life was like. I know you're from Italy.
Yes.
What your life was like and what your spiritual experiences were, or your spiritual awareness was.
Okay. Well, I remember as far back as when I was 2 years old, and it was a very powerful experience because I remember that my 1 year old sister died of a childhood disease. And it was interesting because for whatever reason, my parents were so engulfed in their pain that they kind of abandoned me emotionally. And I have all that in my book. But and so I don't remember how quickly, but just about the time when she died, right after that, I remember a visitor that would come to me every night after my parents fell asleep. And she would just, it was a beautiful, I called her my beautiful woman, my beautiful lady. And she had long, dark hair, very wavy. She had this most gorgeous, brilliant eyes, and she would float around. And I remember so vividly the soles of her feet above me as she just floated around very gently. And sometimes she would come in and say peekaboo. And it was just, I looked so forward to seeing her every night. And so when I thought it was normal, I never had the urge to share that with anybody, not even my parents. It felt like, not that I was trying to keep it a secret, it felt so natural not to.
Hmm.
And then when I got to be about between the age of 7 or 8 years old, somehow I realized that that was not normal. And I didn't want to be not normal. I wanted to be like the other people. And to be abandoned emotionally and then feeling not normal, it just was too much for me. And I said, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Instantly, the visits stopped.
Mm.
Now, she looked like just I didn't realize that she was an angel because she didn't have any wings. She just had this veil-like outfit that she would float with. All right, so that was that. And through the years, I could feel something as I raised my kids and all that. I could feel that she was around, but I would say things. Okay, I don't want to deal with this right now, but if you have help, I'll accept it. In my mind, I would not verbalize it. It was like that mental telepathic communication. And then I was having a rough time with my parents about 25 years ago. And I was very frustrated, very tired. And I was coming home from school. I was taking classes then. I was coming home from school, and it was about 9:30. It was springtime. It was sometime in April. And I was in that mode of feeling sorry for myself. And I'd say, well, I think I have angels, but I bet mine are not big because my work isn't important, blah, blah, blah. And so I drove into my driveway. And of course, I'm in the country. There are no lights unless you put them on. And my daughters had forgotten to leave the lights on for me. So I was struggling to look for my keys. And all of a sudden, I heard this voice that seemed to come out of everywhere, including inside of me. And it said, turn around. So I'm turning. I didn't know where to look. And then I saw it, right? I have a garage on the property that's it's 24 by 40, and it's a double-decker gambrel roof. On the right side and behind the garage was this angel, this big angel, three times the size of the garage, with stretched wings, one that went all the way to the north side of the property, the other one toward the south, over, covering the street. Okay.
Wow.
And all I could say was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then
Were
I
you
heard the
frightened
voice
at
again.
all?
Pardon?
Were you frightened at all by just because
No,
it's
I was captivated,
yeah.
no fear. And I kept saying, oh my God, oh my God. And then I heard the voice again. Is this big enough for you?
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. So it was, I knew then that I was just being too serious. and and finally found the key. I went inside and I said, wait a minute, did I really see this? So I went back outside to look, and it felt like this. It was made out of fluffy clouds with gray enhanced on like on the wings part of the entity. And then I also heard, my name is Naomi. I am the one that used to come and visit you as a child in Italy. I'm here to make you aware of the fact that you chose to do this work. And you have to know that the information doesn't come from you, it comes through you. You are just a channel, an instrument. All you have to do is trust and allow yourself to be utilized as such. We will do the rest. And it was very pivotal for me because that's when I finally decided to, okay, I'm going to do this. They're going to do the work. Fine, I'll do it. And that's when I began to do the work. No classes or anything like that. That's how it began for me. And it's interesting because then I would do journal, and I felt like in my heart, I felt like, God, I wasted so much time. So when I would do journal, I would say, what else do I need to do for to enhance the journey, my journey toward this spirituality? And I knew that I was being serious about it. So one time they had me write on my journal, get a step stool. And it was so confusing to me. I said, a step stool, why? Because you, my dear, are going to be doing more and more of this as you progress. And the podium is just too tall for you, dear. I'm under 5 feet tall, right? So again, with the humor is unbelievable and unexpected times.
Yeah,
So that was interesting. Basically, I understood that I was just taking things too seriously.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
And
grandma was 4'11" and I'm 5'1", so we're a bunch of shorties ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how I started. And then I started to do sessions with people. Sometimes people would come and would call me because their pets had died and they wanted to know if I could get in touch with them, how they were doing. And, so it started that way. And then I started doing on a regular basis with groups. And then, of course, 17 years ago, well, that was 2 years ago. This year actually will be 18 years that I would have had the group going. And I've been encouraged to have it online, but it doesn't feel right yet, because right now what I'm doing a lot of work with the near death experience group. I go facilitate the one here in Connecticut and other things, and I have a challenging time sometimes. So and my friends sometimes it comes out of me say, "Okay, have a nice time, but just uh, be careful. Well, be safe." And why? Why are you saying
Right.
something?
Right.
So I have to be very careful what I say to people, because they think I'm reading them.
Right. And yeah.
I do
And I
get spontaneous information sometimes, but not all the time.
right. Yeah. Now, I assume that when you saw the giant angel, that you'd already had at least one near death experience at that point,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay.
That's when I was at a pond with the kids and my ex-husband and some friends, and I was watching over the girls, and they were young then, and I slipped in the water, and I never had learned to swim. So I slipped, and the harder I try to get out, the deeper I would go. And it was so painful. As I was swallowing water, the pain was unbearable. And all of a sudden I heard like a snap, somebody snapping a finger, and the pain stopped. And there's more. I don't know how much you want me to say about that.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Okay.
This was your first near death experience? Because I know you said you
This
had one. Yeah.
I actually, after talking about thinking about this, I asked one time, I asked Spirit, was the situation with my sister dying and me seeing the angel afterwards visiting me for the next 5 years, was that a near death experience? I got in my gut, yes.
Mhm.
But because it's very difficult to truly explain what a near death experience is, that's more. And I checked this with some of the INs people. Uh, they consider my first one with the angel, it was a life transforming experience
Mm,
to be abandoned. And then there's more to that story in the book. But
yeah.
yeah, so that was a life transforming experience, and it truly felt like that. Now, the when I drowned at the lake, that was my first real one, because I know that I stopped breathing as I didn't feel any pain. It was just this engulfed in this most amazing white light embracing me with just the unconditional love. And as I was seeing these like pictures above my head, like a slideshow. And some of them, they were clear, but I couldn't understand why I was being shown them. And as I was confused, then all of a sudden I would hear a snap again, and clarity would come to my mind. So I was shown previous lifetimes with my then husband, and how he treated me. I died at his hands many times. It was
Wow.
more than just abusive situation. And I knew that this present situation was abusive, but it wasn't as bad as he then later got. So I was told that the situation was not. I felt that it wasn't going to get any better, and but I was told also that you are never going to be alone. Just remember, we're here for you whenever you make whatever decision you feel you need to make. And I always remember that. And I then my friend, not my ex-husband, but my friend pulled me out of the water, and I started coughing the water out, and the kids were really upset. The mommy was not doing well. But anyway, so I knew instinctively, I knew that somehow from that near death experience, I came out of it with this incredible focused strength, the strength that I would need for the change that I was going to make in my life, the divorce.
Right.
Okay. You know, the first time ever in my family, an Italian family, you know, divorce and all that. Certainly didn't get any support from my family. The guilt trip came through. My mother said she was going to have a heart attack if I went through the divorce. Didn't care that I was being abused. My father was blaming everything on Christopher Columbus for discovering America. This would never happen. Would not have happened if that. Anyway, so so that was, and of course, my brother, who is 4 years younger than me, he said to me that if I went through that, he would disown me, and it actually happened.
Wow.
Okay, even his children are not allowed to talk to me.
To
The
this
only
day.
one till today, yes. The only one that really supported me, interestingly enough, was my ex-husband, wonderful sister, older sister, Rosa. She told me, says, you have to make that whatever decision you have to make, because you're living in this life for 24 hours a day. I know my brother, but I love him anyways. Just know that whatever decision you make, I will always love you. And she kept that promise up until the time when she died of cancer. So
Yeah.
that was not easy. And of course, my focus was also on wanting my children to know that that wasn't the way a man was supposed to treat a woman.
Mm-hmm.
I was very focused on that.
Yeah.
So that gave me the strength.
Now, when you had this experience, did you understand what had happened to you when you woke up? What did you think?
I thought that I almost died, but I didn't know what it was called. And I learned later that this is considered a life review.
Yeah.
I didn't know it then.
Mm-hmm. And did you feel, a lot of people talk about feeling their souls sort of pop out of their bodies, and some talk about traveling down to a light. Some people talk about darkness. Do you
Yeah.
have any recollection of what that sensation was of
Okay.
leaving your body?
So once that snap happened, and the pain was gone,
Yeah.
no longer pain, even though I knew that there was water inside my body, no pain. I felt like I was engulfed by this wonderful, loving, bright white light. That's it. But
Oh, yeah.
I didn't go anywhere. It felt like it came to me or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it was
And
all
now
right there.
I know that must have, like you said, that really sort of was a wake up call, I think, in terms of what you had to do going forward to protect
Mhm.
yourself. So, and I know that you've had other near death experiences. So let's talk about sort of the trajectory of what's happening in your life when you have your second one.
Yeah, well, that was only in 2012. That was I call that chapter the miracle car crash, because there's no way that anybody could have possibly have lived through that. Not only did I live through that, but I had no broken bones. I got hit by an SUV, and I had a small car. And so that's why I call it a miracle. My car got totaled, and I got hit on the driver's side. by an SUV, and
Right.
it was incredible. So when I got hit, the car started spinning around,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden it felt like a vacuum, like somebody had vacuumed my soul out of my body, and I just automatically popped into this space. I can't call it a room. It was like an area, a space where the walls were made out of this incredible bright white light, which brought me to the memory recall of when I drowned, that same kind of loving light. And so I was in this space, me here, and I was looking at this very ornate table or desk. And behind this beautiful table were 9 entities. And the reason why I know that there were 9 was because I actually counted them. And they were wearing these brown capes, dark brown capes. And I also knew instinctively that the reason why they were wearing those capes was because they were wanting me to distinguish the fact that there were 9 of them. Otherwise, it would have been this blob of white light. Now, there was no definition to their face, it was just this light coming out of the capes. And I was so serious. I was so emotional to the fact that no, I am not going. I can't go yet. I have just too many things to do yet on the earth. Felt like I knew what those things were right then and there, but I didn't remember afterwards. But so it felt like the one in the middle, somehow I knew instinctively, I knew that he was the one that was the decision maker, and the others were just kind of holding me with this most incredible, what, loving, unconditional love. But I was here and they were there, but I felt embraced by them all. And so when I say no, I can't leave yet, all of a sudden I heard and felt, okay, zoom again, this vacuum back into my spirit came back into the. What was also interesting was when I was up there, I could see the people uh, coming around to where the car had stopped on by the side of the road. I could actually read their minds, what they were thinking. Some were really just curious about another accident, and others were very concerned about the person that was inside, or whether she was still alive or not. And so when I got back into the car, I could see the people that I was seeing from above.
That's so cool, and that's not the first time I've heard that. A lot of
Ah,
people come out of it just when they're coming out have, and Randy is one of them,
oh,
who
yeah,
could read the thoughts of the people around, which is so interesting. It's like you're 1 foot on the other side. You're 1 foot, you're one part's your spirit's still sort of in
yeah,
that realm and then yet halfway back in your body. So you can be in the two states at once, which is so fascinating. And I
yeah.
meant to ask you, in between the time from your first near death experience until this one, were you exploring spirituality? Were you in touch with the angels and the guides, or were you sort of just living a normal life as a
I was
parent?
busy being a mother and dealing with abusive husband and all that until I finally divorced them. When the kids were just barely teenagers, that's when I finally decided to get out of it, because the abuse was becoming worse. And of course, I knew that it was going to, because I remember the when I drowned, that
Yeah.
I was told that. And so I was just basically living a normal life. And I think I mentioned that sometimes I would feel somebody around me, uh, and it felt like it was the one that used to come and visit me as a child, my beautiful lady.
Hmm.
And but then I would say, no, I don't have time right now, I'm too busy doing stuff. So but if you can help me, do please.
Yeah. So you
That was
understood that
Yeah.
the role of angels and you understood the
Kind
concept
of.
of
It's
angels.
I understood without even knowing why I understood.
Right. And so do you think, or do you know that how many did you have altogether near death experiences?
Well, two real ones, and then of course the first one was
Oh, yes.
yeah, when I
So you
was a
count that.
child.
That's right. Okay. So it feels to me, and I don't know if this is, if you say this in your book, that it was sort of them knocking back on your door and saying, hello, you're supposed to be doing this work. And do we need to remind you again?
Oh
And so
yeah.
that's why you were given another near death experience.
Yeah, it was funny because in my humor, sometimes I call those little nudges spiritual two by fours.
And this one clearly was, this wasn't just a
Yeah.
little incident. How was your physical state after this accident?
It was interesting because even today, after all these years, I still feel the sensitivity on my left side of my head because
Mhm.
I hit, the car, the SUV hit the side of my car. But again, it's a miracle. I should have died. If you saw that the car, the condition of my car, you would think this person had to have died. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, I never knew who these entities were. Um, Years later, only like 2 years before I actually finished my book, I was by myself. My husband was working at the time, and struggling to see what about sitting in front of the computer trying to write. Nothing was coming out, and I felt them, all nine of them, coming in, and I heard them very gently. I heard them say, the book is going to be very helpful to people that are considering suicide.
Wow.
So I'm saying to myself, okay, so what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
Nothing was coming up. And interestingly enough, that it wasn't until my ex-husband died that I couldn't stop writing. I was writing like a maniac.
Yeah. And I actually want to ask you, after this car accident, then what happened in terms of spiritual activity with you? At that, did you start to realize then that there was spiritual work for you to do? How long did it take you to realize that this was something that was actually your purpose?
It was interesting because I was scheduled to present at the Friends of Ions in Virginia Beach.
Mhm. Which
Uh,
is the International Association for Near
well,
Death Studies, in case anyone
yes,
doesn't know. Yeah, I
yes,
just,
yes, the international, yeah, the Friends of I. It's another support group like the one we have here in Connecticut. Very nice people. But when I was supposed to speak there, I only was going to share. Uh, my first one was a child, and when I drowned, this had not happened yet because it happened in January, and I was
okay.
scheduled to speak in June or July. So I said, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to speak there. I can't remember. I know that there's more detail that I need to receive. So how do I do this?" So I did some checking, and Spirit helped, and I went to see a hypnotherapist that specifically does where it takes you back to
Yeah.
either past lives or present lifetime situations. So I went through this session. I went back to the day of the accident when my spirit popped out of my body and up there. And that's when I saw it very clearly. More information came through. And of course, I shared that in Virginia Beach. Basically what I was being told by them, which I don't know why I had forgotten that, was that I of course writing my book was very, very important, even though the book didn't get finished until 2 years ago. you know
Yeah.
and so I was told that it was very important for me to know that it didn't matter whether people accepted my channeling. It was important for me to give the information as it came and not to judge myself, just give it as it is. And your unconditional love, you're loved unconditionally. Just enjoy one phrase that stays with me all the time. And I share it sometimes with people that are all frustrated about things. Enjoy every breath you take.
Yes.
And that kind of mellows people.
Yes. I do want to know how, because I'm a medium myself, I understand the communication between spirit and us humans. Some people can really hear audibly or see spirit with their naked eye.
Yeah.
People like me who had to train to learn to do it, it's all sensation. I feel spirit like they're here now. And I actually, like even when you were talking, you were talking about your ex-husband, and I think it was him and his sister, because I was like, I heard like there's something like it was one of these things where it's like apology, and I was like, not now, and I was like, get out of here.
Oh,
But
he came. It's in the book that he came after he died.
oh, he did, yeah. I
Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
him, and I felt his sister, but so for you, how did you even know what channeling was, or how to channel, or that you were channeling? Because I will say, I had to learn this, right? I had to study to
Yeah.
learn the difference between my own thoughts and thoughts from spirit. And now I'm getting so good at, like, now I'm starting to get better and better where
Yeah. It's all
I know,
about practice, basically. Yes.
right. And did you, like, it's so interesting because for the first year of my studying, it was tricky. I wasn't
Yeah.
it takes a long time. And only recently did it start to come easy, right? Where it was like,
Yeah.
okay, I know what that is. I immediately know that that's a spirit thing because it comes on a different, I don't know, sensation in my body. It
Yeah.
feels different. So how did you sort of figure that out?
Well, like I said, was having that vision of the angel over the garage, Naomi, who used to come and visit me as a child, was very pivotal, because that's when I finally accepted that I actually didn't have to be responsible to just be the instrument, the channel that I am, and they will do the rest. That made me
Yeah.
feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just being available for that, committing to that. They told me, she had told me that that was part of my contract. I had written that into my contract, that besides all the other things that I was supposed to experience in this lifetime, this being an instrument for spirit to channel, do healing energy, is part of what I wrote into my contract. So it
Right.
felt right in the gut. And when I do sessions, I see, I hear, I feel. So all the three modalities. And when I say I see much clearer when I close my eyes, because the third eye takes over.
Yeah.
Okay,
Same.
so
I've gotten
that's
to the point where I can now give readings with open eyes, but sometimes when I'm really in it, it puts you more with spirit. And always tell
yeah,
people, I'm not ignoring you. I just want to be connecting with spirit and not looking at your reactions.
yes.
So and then when you do healing, what types of, who comes to you? I mean, what types of issues, I would say, I would prefer to say, um, are people coming to you to have healed? Are they physical, emotional, all of the
Well,
above?
they don't necessarily come to me for healing, but as I do the sessions, I hear that they they are in need of that. So
Oh, yeah.
I know that I'm being used, my hands are being used to do the healing. And many times they have me use my Tibetan bowl. I have one Tibetan bowl that vibrational healing. So
Yeah.
that works too. And that actually tells me uh, some stuck energy in the body, because it sounds different.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I've also had people call me to do spirit detachment in their homes and all that. So
Right. And
it's
actually about that, while we're talking about it, because I like to let the conversation flow organically. Um,
yeah.
I would love to hear your perspective on attachments in homes and why that happens. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
My understanding of that is that some people that die, they're so afraid of being judged by God, of whatever they think that they might have done and all that. So they see the light, but they're afraid to go to it. So in order to survive, they either attach it to a piece of furniture or another person. And the reason they're able to attach to other people is because they look for vulnerability. Okay, like for example, bars are a good place
Yeah,
to find vulnerable people, drinkers, and things like that.
because
So
their energy
yes, they look
vibration
for
is can be
vulnerability.
lower.
Pardon?
Their energy vibration can be lower in
Yes,
when someone's in a darker place or even
yes,
just inebriated.
yeah. Vulnerability is what they look for. And I worked with Archangel Michael too, because he's the greatest one counselor to convince people that they're not good where they are. They're not good to the person who's in the process of living their lives, and they're not good for themselves because they haven't gone to the light, and they haven't done their life review. They haven't gone to the light to cleanse themselves and decide what it is that they want to do next.
And if only they knew that it's a loving process. It's not
Yes.
bad. It's not going to be bad. You're not going to be
Yeah.
punished.
But
That's
because of
yeah,
possibly, religious beliefs, so they're thinking that they're going to be punished, so they get stuck there. And that's why they
right.
don't have the clarity of going, proceeding.
Yeah, and it's I never my whole life I never believed in angels. I thought that they were just these I thought that just old ladies had little angel tchotchkes and that it was all sort of like fairy tales and, that sort of thing. And then I changed my mind. Funny enough, I changed my mind because Monica the medium, who's one of my teachers, I love her. She did a podcast episode about her friend B. And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to hear this one because I'm not interested in angels." And
Mm,
then I listened to B speak. B is now a friend of mine, and I said, "Actually, this checks out with my whole paradigm. Actually, everything she's saying makes a lot of sense." And I actually set up a meeting with her, and she did an angel reading for me, and I thought, "Wow, this is so interesting." So I've started incorporating, and this is where I'm going to lead to a question for you.
yeah.
I've started incorporating angels into my prayers. When I do readings, I call in Archangel Michael for protection.
Mm,
And so the other day, as I'm having delved deep into the world, and Susan Giesman I did a video about, she said, just call in Michael. It doesn't have to be because you're in peril. You can just
mm,
be sort of feeling a little meh, or whatever. Just maybe you need a little pick me up, or you just need to connect with him. So I did. I was having a low day, and I don't usually have them at all. I'd gotten over COVID, so I had low energy. And some people had written some rude things about this comment, and I won't even give them more attention than that. But and I just started to feel like, why are you, raining on my why are you trying to be mean when all I'm trying to do is spread love and light? So I said, Archangel Michael, come on in. And Suzanne said, the ways that you'll know that he's received your whatever your prayer, your
request.
communication
Yeah.
is, she said the next day you might start to hear his name repeated.
Mm,
So I'm talking to Randy, our mutual friend, we were chatting the next day on the
so
phone for a
great.
while. And Randy was telling me, I had Randy on my last episode for any of you
Yes.
who, Randy Schiefer, and I said, well, I went to school to become I wanted to be a forensic pathologist. So
Yeah.
I started out, and he was telling me all these great stories about his time doing that. So he tells me
Yeah.
this story about this little boy that he helped. And I said, and all I could, who was abused. And I said, but is the baby okay? That's all I could think of through the whole story is, but the little baby, he was abused. He said his father called me. And you know what he said? He said, Michael is doing so well. And Michael doesn't even remember the abuse. And Michael, he said it 3 times in a row. Like normally you would say,
Hmm.
Michael's fine. He did this and then he did this. But for whatever reason, Randy chose the wording of Michael, Michael, Michael in the same
The
sentence. And
trilogy, right?
I laughed and I said, Randy, you don't even, you got to listen to this. So I would love to know from you, uh, sort of for people who aren't familiar with what is I know this, but what's the difference between a spirit guide, an angel, and an archangel?
Okay. So, spirit guides could be people that have been in your life and have passed on, or from previous lifetimes where there's a contract between both parties to be of service that way. Okay. Angels have, it's an hierarchy. They have, and actually, when I say angels or archangels, I don't believe that has anything to do with religions.
Hmm.
Okay. It's just, it's for lack of better words, basically. I mean, some people might call them entities somehow, you know, ETs, whatever, but they do exist to do their chosen jobs, positions.
Right.
So, and I actually put it in my book in one of the chapters. I started it with the spirit told me that all religions are valid on
Hmm.
the earth because their purpose is to connect people with those that they need to connect with to form relationships, friendships, or whatever, period.
Yep. That makes sense to me.
Okay.
So you have, oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your train of
No,
thought.
no, it's there is no religion on the other side because there's no need of
Right.
religions on the other side.
Yes. And that's funny enough. One of the nasty comments I got was from someone who doesn't like that idea at all. And who there is one
Oh,
religion and that's it. And, and this is blasphemy. And okay. Well, and so so you've got your spirit guides and what's their role in your life?
they are, my belief is that there's, if they're specialized in a certain need in your life, that you, some of your contracted experiences that you have on different stages of your life, and they can help you with that. When my after my parents died, they told me that they're willing to help me, but I would have to ask them to help. And if there's something that they cannot do, they know who to go to that has the experience or the power to help me with that.
Right. So you've got spirit guides and then you have angels. And who are
Yes.
angels?
The archangels, in my mind, their specialty. Like for example, Archangel Raphael, he's the ultimate healer, providing healing energy of all kinds. Again, not in a religious way.
Yeah. Right. And how can people, and this is something I sometimes even forget that, and I've told my own friends this, and then I forget to do it. When you're having a struggle, guess what? All you have to do is ask your spirit guides for help. And because they can't, now, from what I understand, and this is what I'm going to have you explain, is they won't intervene unless you ask them to.
Can't they cannot interfere. It's a
Right.
spiritual law
We
that
have free
they
will.
must ask. Yes, we have free will. We can struggle or we can have it easier with their help.
Right. And how I know, I mean, I just talk to them, but how do you tell people to call on your angels and communicate with them?
Just as if you're calling a friend.
Yeah. That's what
Hey,
I do.
Archangel Raphael, please help me with this situation. Thank you.
Yeah. I talk to them almost every morning. I say, good morning, angels and spirit guides, loved
Yeah,
ones in spirit, ascended
but
masters, God, whoever's my team.
because there is no time on the other side,
Yeah.
sometimes we expect, when we ask for something, we expect instant gratification.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't always work that way. They know better when the timing is right.
Right. And also, tell me if you agree with this. Some things I think just aren't in your highest and best good. So there have been times in my life, I'll take relationships, which people can relate with, where I was like, but I want to date that person. And that's the person I want to be with. But the problem with that is, first of all, you don't know what that would actually be. What are you really asking for? It's instead of saying, I want to be with that particular person, you could find out that person is a sociopath, and behind closed doors or whatever. But it's better to kind of focus on what does that person make you feel like? And let's manifest feeling loved and seen and attracted and all those things. But I think I'd love to know what you say about that too, just in terms of, yes, I can ask my spirit guides for help, but if I'm not meant to go down this path for some reason or
Yeah.
another, they're not just going to give you everything you ask for.
No, it's interesting because sometimes people come to me and they'll, after they're finished with the session, they'll say, God, Tina, I didn't get what I wanted, but I feel like I received what I needed.
Like you need it. Uh-huh.
Okay. And also, we have to remember that we have contracts with certain people at different times. Like in the case of my present husband, Michael, we've been married 13 years now. I learned from his brother that had died 4 months before we met that he was the conduit through which we were nudged by him to be at that place at a certain time so we could meet. And we
Oh,
both felt like we knew each other, but we knew that we'd never met on this in this lifetime.
oh,
And I
that's
learned
beautiful.
later through channeling his brother Paul that we had known each other 111 lifetimes and in different permutations. And this lifetime was supposed to be just enjoying the fruits of our labor.
How interesting that it was 111 as your number that of
Mhm.
times. That's
Yeah.
so interesting too. I'd love to also kind of delve into what you think about, what you know about those connections that we have, because I know there, and also do you, is there such a thing as twin flames, or is it just soul families that you're connected with from other lifetimes?
I'm not sure how I feel about twin flames, and twin flames doesn't necessarily mean that you're supposed to
A
have a
romantic.
romantic relationship. It could be someone that you just feel so close with as a friend, or all that. But what was the other question?
Yeah, yeah, just sort of what do you know about yeah, some people believe in twin flames, and I'm still sort of on the fence about whether I think
Yeah.
that's exactly a thing, but I do know and understand, and I'd love to hear you elaborate about having had other lifetimes with a certain soul group or soul family, and
Yes.
often these characters come back
I
to
do
teach us
believe,
lessons.
because
Yeah.
I've seen it many times where there's such a thing as soul families that travel together and they work together in different permutations. They play different roles with each other in different lifetimes. For example, what I saw very clearly in that channel with his when his brother came through, I actually saw a lifetime with my husband Michael, where we were brothers in the countryside, beautiful countryside in France in the 1700s.
Mm.
And his mom, who's no longer on the earth, she was our mother then, and we were so close with it. We protected each other. That was
Yeah.
only one lifetime that I saw with each other.
I think that's so interesting because I also agree that I don't think that everyone has one soulmate, romantically, right? And I also
Mhm,
don't think soulmates are always your romantic partner. Um,
mhm.
and I also think there are people that are your romantic partner for the time to teach you something. They're your
Yes.
teachers. And I had someone like that that was in my life for 10, 15 years. And it was this very addictive relationship that was
Mm,
very unhealthy. And we're friends now. And so we've talked about this openly where I said, I mean, we would never date again. That's not even interested in that. But he shattered, I mean, he's the person that made me realize I was an addict, that I didn't have healthy boundaries or
so
healthy
this
intimacy.
this is the service that he provided for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And at the time I just was like, I have to be with him. I'm in love with him. And now I see him as, now that I've come off that, uh, I've gone through recovery, I can see that, oh no, our dark sides were attracted to each other, but we really helped each other grow. In fact, he's in recovery too now. And we're both took, him like 10 years past me to do it, but we were there as mirrors for each other to shake each other up and say, we
Yeah.
need, this is a problem. And so I think it's really interesting how sometimes they're not the person you're meant to marry. They're just a mirror for you.
Yeah. They're the experience required for your next stage of your journey.
Yes. And so after your second, yeah, well, your third, technically, your tech NDE, I know that you've sort of answered this, but at what point did you I don't want to say realize or start developing your psychic mediumship ability as opposed to just communicating with
Well,
angels.
I do believe that the the visit from the angel
Yeah.
Naomi over the garage really did it. But after my third, when I died at the car crash there, that was everything got enhanced.
Yes.
Even
That
my
was my question.
dreams were so vivid and clear. Um, and information like the one thing that bothered me was I could not stand like loud people that spoke too loudly
Hmm.
or bright lights. I could not take that in physicality. It
Right.
was like it was a little bit too much for me because I just came from there, and we're never the same once we have a near death experience. We're just not, because there are we're just we go to the light and then we come back to the earth without going through the process of being reborn as a child and all that. How could anybody expect to feel the same? And one thing that I really like about the IAN, the International Association of Near Death Studies, is that they have if you go through their website, they have different experiencers, and they also have a printout on what to take with you when if you decide to go see a mental health expert, psychiatrist, psychologist, if you feel that you can't deal with your near death experience, because the mental health department or whatever, they do not teach the experts how to deal with us. It's the
Right.
worst thing that could happen to one of us near death experiencer is to be told, oh, that was just in your imagination.
Absolutely. In fact, my friend Charlie, who listens to this podcast, hi Charlie, he's a therapist, but this is what his focus is now, and he's going to be. I think you might know Charlie Bannon, but and this is now his life's work is helping near-death experiencers process, acclimate, and just and really also just to be a support system
Yeah,
because so many doctors will say, "Oh, that was in your mind."
yeah.
Some know, and I think a lot do
But
understand,
it's
but
yes, some know by from experience and their need to know more, but it's not taught
yep,
in school, which is it's sad. But with all the with IANs being so popular now, so well known, and they have people that do all kinds of research, it's changing.
yeah, which is so wonderful. And also, I don't know the number, you might know how many people at this point have reported their near-death experiences. It's thousands upon thousands of people, and there's so many people that haven't even reported it because of their
It's global.
religion or yeah,
Yeah,
and it is, and it's independent of
yeah,
religion, culture, geography, and in fact, the Indian culture, in Hinduism, it's something that's always just been
yeah,
accepted and part of their culture and religion that, oh yeah, it's just reincarnation is something that you know from
yeah.
the time you're a child.
One of the things that I've come back with, especially after my third one, is that I just cannot take chit chat.
Hmm.
I just sit at tables with even family members and listen to their chit chat and twiddle my finger and thinking, when is this going to be over? And because once you go out there, how could you possibly think of not having deep conversation? That's
I
why it's
know.
so important to have groups, support groups. And this is why I dedicated my life to co-facilitate this group here in Connecticut, which was the original group done by some incredible doctors that they felt the need to create this group. And then, of course, it exploded everywhere. But that's
And
where
what's your group called again?
it's the website is CT ndeconnecticut.org.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I just wanted to say too to the listeners that IANS, and I don't know, but I'm assuming your group, you don't have to be a near-death experiencer to be on the mailing list, attend events,
No.
listen to lectures. I mean, I say we, I'm not, a near-death experiencer
uh,
myself, but I've been told, and I know that I attend and I participate in a lot of the IANS activities. It's really like the whole point is to get the word out to everyone. We're all souls, and anyone is welcome. So anyone can feel
Yes,
free
it's
to,
open to anybody, and it's
yeah,
interesting because some of our members of our group, we have hundreds participating and getting the emails of the speaker. And I actually book the speakers depending on what I feel the need is, what the membership requires at the time. Um, it's very interesting because a lot of them are just, they're curious. They
yeah,
haven't had a near death, but they attend religiously these groups, and
yeah.
they, in a kind of funny way, they call themselves NDE wannabe.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so funny because I would classify myself as one. That's why I ended up doing this podcast. But at the same time, I know the joke is it's not really a joke, but people will say, "Oh, I wish I had a near death experience." But really, you all say, "No, you don't." There are other ways to connect with spirit without
Yeah,
having to actually, first of all, be in a traumatic accident. A lot of people end up with PTSD, but also acclimating can be very painful and very difficult
yeah,
for some. And not every, I don't know that I can't speak for everyone, but I know that coming back into that dense energy, as you said, is very hard. And seeing all the horrible things and the ways that people treat one another after you've been in this state of pure bliss. And I will say that even since I started to do mediumship actively, like on a weekly basis, all the time meditating, I've stopped watching TV because I actually cannot handle. I used to be a true crime junkie. I used to watch nothing but 48 Hours, Dateline, give me all the murder shows. I actually I can watch like the first 48, which isn't that I literally can't listen to things that are too dark. I don't want to watch TV. I don't watch the news at all. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't want to see the news. I don't want to see anything because it affects me in such a different way just from spending, even just not having had a near death experience, spending time with spirit every day. I meditate and spend time with them every day. And I cannot, I also find myself not obviously, I know we're not coming from a judgy place, but just finding myself bored by like having trouble focusing on surface conversations or,
yeah,
things that I used to be invested in. I'm like, I don't mean to say like, oh, I'm so enlightened, but it's just a different mindset where it's harder
yeah.
to relate with people unless it's a deep connection. And I think I think you might agree that just even doing this podcast for me has given me such a sense of love, community, purpose. I don't have loneliness. I don't feel loneliness, even though I just moved across the country. I feel like when we have conversations, you, me, Randy, we've met for 5 minutes and already we are
The
in it.
connection is very deep. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to know a few researchers that have not had an NDE, but they feel drawn to researching and talking with people that have had near death experience and videotaping them. They have told me that their lives have changed so drastically just by communicating with us.
Yes, I feel the same. And my whole sense of support system and love and friendship and deep, deep connections has expanded tenfold, which I've always been a connector, but now it's really grown. And I love that about the community. And one of the things I wanted to ask you too, there is something I want people to check out, which is on your website, which is a channeled message from angels about what's happening now in our world. But I love to hear too, as we speak now, about what is going on right now, in this world. In the last, I have 5, 6, whatever years, it's been a lot of upheaval, a lot of chaos, a lot of division. And and I've started to look at it as sometimes you need to break everything down to build something better. and that we're all sort of having to really confront a lot of better selves. I would love to hear your perspective on what you think is really going on, or anything you'd like people to know at all.
Yeah. My guides, because life is complicated enough,
Yes.
they want me to use the KISS method, which is keep it simple, sweetie. Kiss,
I like
kiss,
that you
kiss.
changed it to sweetie. That's much nicer
Yeah,
and kinder.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so it's very, once you ask the question of a simple question of what is the lesson in this for me, not what is the lesson in all of us, because you can't control others. People will grow at their own speed, and who are we to judge, right? But if everybody concentrated on themselves, personal selves, we wouldn't be needing anyone else, right? And also, but there is such a thing as the communal reality, which certain things we get energetically, we get attached to others' experience, and so we have to be aware of that. But basically, is that once we get the lesson of the idea of not feeling like running around, like sometimes I visualize the chickens without their head, with the head cut off, just running around and doing absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my message there on my website, what the angel said after with this COVID situation, which is still valid today after 2 years that it was brought to me, was to just enjoy the little things in life. Just learn to enjoy the little things in life. But haven't you noticed also how some people are beginning to do that? Like even just being able to hug somebody and really appreciating it for that sharing of energy with each other. We wouldn't have
Yes.
known that if we hadn't known we were missing it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people, formerly cynical people in my life, who've become, I don't want to say spiritual, but more gratitude centered.
Yeah,
And
the attitude of
yeah,
gratitude is so important to practice.
yeah. And I think it does. It's made me so, I moved out here to Virginia because my parents are here. It just made me want to be with them while I still have the time. It
Hmm.
was like, I wanted to come back to the East Coast, but it was like, my parents are 74 and 80, and I don't, I just don't want to miss any more time with them. And just being with them brings me so much excitement and joy. Whereas before it
Yeah,
was like I lived in LA and everything was about the career and the
yeah,
next thing and the next project. And now it's like just being with my parents is everything to me.
yeah.
And I think that's so beautiful.
And look at what it just going back to the 9/11 with in New York, the with the towers coming down that way, all those thousands of people that have died. I had been in New York prior to that, and
Hmm.
the energy felt just too fast for me. It was so much tension, and I went back again with my husband after the tower when they hadn't even built the memorial, but just, and I walked in the street and I said, my God, the energy is not the same. And
Yeah.
what I visualized is that a lot of the people that have died in that those buildings going down, they came back. They came back already quickly to those people that they stopped and figured, hey, maybe it's not about making tons of money and just losing life and not having the opportunity to experience what family is like. So there are a lot of people that were just concentrating on work, work, work. They decided to have families, and a lot of those souls that had died, those people that had died, were being were born into these people that have finally decided what the important thing was for them. I saw that vision very clearly.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. As a not, as a message, I think,
Mhm.
when we're faced with adversity and
Yeah,
terror and things like that, that it does make us hold on to one another tighter and show, and we all kind of come out of ourselves and say, how can I help? How can I be of service? And
Mm.
that's what I've seen now, which is beautiful. There's a lot of division, but there's also a lot more people saying, how can I help? Which is amazing. And what would you say from your experience? Big question, answer it however you want to. What would you say is the meaning of life on earth, in these bodies on this earth? I've never asked that question before, but I felt compelled to ask it of you.
It was funny because I have four granddaughters. The youngest one was about ready to turn 15, but before that, she was, when she was 14, I said, I know that you know what I do. Do you have questions for me? And she says, okay, let me think. Yes, what is the meaning of life?
Oh,
14.
that's so funny. That's great. That's
So I
adorable.
took a big breath and and I said, okay. So I think what came out of me then was just to enjoy life, slow down, just enjoy every breath that you take, and do not worry about anything. Just trust the process. And I kind of was proud of myself for responding like that to a 14-year-old because I couldn't get too deep into it. I felt, but then she went on by asking, and what about past lives? Is that real? Does it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing led to another. So it's interesting how the new batch of crystal children on Earth, how they're really very highly developed and they know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I
They
know that's
definitely
so
need to
great.
be helped. They need to be helped in uh, in helping. They need to be helped in helping us, basically.
Yes. And you've pretty much answered this question, but I'll just give you another opportunity to say if there's one thing you want people to know, what would that be?
To trust the process, follow your gut. The gut, the intuition, the gut. That's where the all the information comes in from. Is in your gut, the solar plexus. That's where all the answers are. Trust that. Do not second guess yourself.
I like that. In fact, I'm getting I've never had a tattoo in my life. I
Oh.
always felt I was just too precious about my own skin. And I never wanted to do it, but now I decided that as part of my letting go of the physical and just embracing that I'm just a
Mhm.
soul. This is just my sartorial envelope, as Tom Robbins, the writer, once said. Uh, I'm getting trust tattooed right here because
Oh,
it
I
is
love that.
the only because of what you just said. That's just
Trust.
it. In every situation that there is, and especially in my mediumship now, I just want to remind myself whenever I'm afraid, anxious, worried, and in my mediumship readings, I get nervous every time. What if it doesn't happen? What if don't do a good reading? What if they don't? What if I'm just
Trust.
off? The minute I just say I actually start off
Trust.
all my readings saying, I trust you, spirit. I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. And
Share that when you get it. I love to see it.
I will for sure.
And
Oh, yeah,
it's
go ahead.
interesting because I years ago I did an exchange with a friend of mine who also channeled, and I asked something. I don't even remember what it was that I asked, and I said, "Yeah, it's easy. I'll believe it when I see it."
Mhm.
And he says, "No, dear one, you will see it when you believe it."
Yes. My favorite, one of my quotes that I always say is, which isn't mine. I forget who, I don't know who said it originally, but it's what you believe is what you will see.
Yeah, it's
And
the
it's
law of
just so true.
attraction.
It's the law of attraction, which I'm really
Yes,
into.
yes.
So, oh my gosh, I thank you so much, Tina, for sharing your insight, your wisdom, even just it's even just nice to hear about your life experience, and how much you've been through and what a beautiful soul you are.
Uh,
And I will be putting your website link below, but is there anything else you'd like to share about anything you're
Well,
offering, services,
Of
projects.
course, when the weather is nice and there's no snow on the ground, the the labyrinth is always open to anybody that wants to come over. It's open to everyone. And
I'm going.
okay, so it's on my website, and also it's under the National Labyrinth Society, where you can find the address and everything. So that's that. And I just I am very, very committed to our group, our Connecticut group, the near death experience group out of Yukon, which now is only on Google Meet. We do the meeting, and that can be those meetings can be anybody can participate, and their way to connect, the link is on our website. It's always the second Monday of every month, once a month.
I'm so interested in that. I'm a Connecticut native for anyone who doesn't know.
Okay, yeah.
And now that I'm in Virginia, I go up there a lot. So I'm
Yeah,
excited about
the
that.
speakers, this we videotape the speakers so they can be
Oh,
seen
fantastic.
anytime anytime that after we post them. And the other thing too about my book is because I did self-publishing, it can only be purchased from me through my website. But because I was getting requests from it from outside of the US, and the shipping is it's more expensive than what the book. So Michael and I decided to work on doing an ebook.
Yeah,
And so I think the way to get the book as an ebook is also on my website.
fantastic. Thank you so much for showing up today and for sharing your time, energy, insight, and warmth. It just really means the world to me. And I know it does to our listeners too.
Well, Shannon, I am so grateful that you did this, and I please stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm going to come to that labyrinth. I'm serious because I go up to
wonderful.
Connecticut frequently. So,
Thank you.
so lovely to have met you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You take care now.
Pleasure. You too.
Bye.
Bye.